With the AIG Women's Open just around the corner, we wanted to speak to someone who knows the field inside and out. It's taking place in Wales with Lydia Ko looking to defend the title she won at St. Andrews just 12 months ago. Harry Ewing is a pro and top LPGA Tour caddy who was on the bag for Karen Gaynor during the Evian Championship and will be again in Porthcawl. Harry, I want to start with the Evian Championship from a few weeks ago, where you were caddy for Karen Gaynor, who finished tied for 14th. How did you find that experience? Because it was a really successful weekend for you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a magic week, really. Obviously, Evian is an iconic venue there on the shores of Lake Geneva. Beautiful weather. Obviously, it's the fourth of five majors in our calendar season on the ladies' tour. But yeah, brilliant experience. Cara plays her golf on the LET in Europe, and after a successful season last year and a win in the first tournament of the year in Morocco on the LET, that gave her pass into some of the majors later this year. So to rock up there at Evian and for her to do her thing, and obviously Saturday was a very special day. She did an amazing round on Saturday of 64, 7 under par, and for that to put her in a position of being tied for the lead and in the final group going out in the major, that's very special. Yeah.
Let's go back to the one-on-one of this. How do you become a player's caddy? Do you approach them? Do they approach you? Is it word of mouth?
Yeah, it's probably word of mouth once you're out here a while. I've been caddying over 4 years now. I'm a PGA professional myself, so I've been involved in the golf game or the golf industry for the last maybe 20 years plus. But yeah, a lot of it is word of mouth. It's contacts. You get to know the players. Maybe in some cases you get to know their managers or their agents or whatever. But I would have been familiar with Cara, and her game and being reasonably friendly with her over the last couple of years. I carried a full year on the LET in 2023. So you get to, especially on the LET, you get to know people maybe a lot better and a lot closer than maybe the LPGA. They're quite different tours and quite different atmospheres. I think the girls on the LET don't play for quite as much money as the girls do in America. And with that, there's a closer knit community. Everyone kind of has to look out for each other and whatever. So, yeah, it's been great to get to know Cara, and we've always kind of said it over the last year and a half that we'd like to get an opportunity to maybe work together at some stage, and then things align. I actually did a tournament in Evian for Cara about 6 weeks prior to the major. On the LET, they have a 3 day, what's called the Jabra tournament in Evian, so we played there and finished third. And I suppose when you've some good history around that course, and then in 6 weeks' time that the major is coming up, and that was when we kind of planted the seed of maybe working together this summer once we come and do these tournaments in Europe for the summer. So yeah, it's been exciting. I did the Irish Open for her the week before Evian. And then, like I said, we go back to Evian and feel that we already have a very good game plan and strategy, because that golf course is, some people love it, some people hate it. It's a bit of a funky golf course, but we felt obviously from that 3 day Jabra tournament we had a pretty good handle about how we wanted to play that golf course. And yes, it might play a little bit differently in a major. Typically they make the golf course a little bit longer, and maybe the pin positions are a bit tougher when the world's best are coming to town. But yeah, we went into that week with some confidence for sure.
Take us inside the ropes. What's the one thing you never want to forget in the player's bag? I mean, being in the UK and all that, I'm imagining it's an umbrella, but what is the one thing you just cannot forget?
Yeah, umbrella's important. The rain hood for the bag. I've been out many times where we think the weather is going to be glorious for the day, and you don't really want to go out without an umbrella. If it's glorious, you can use it for sun, and then equally the day can change. But yeah, the rain hood for the bag. Make sure obviously they have enough snacks in there themselves. A lot of the girls will actually kind of bring their own snacks, and on the first tee, like a banana or some kind of energy bars, obviously drinking lots of water or energy drinks to stay hydrated. But yeah, I suppose, look, the golf bag is the caddy's responsibility. That's what we're in charge of. So make sure you don't have any more than 14 clubs, or that if you're trialing out a club, which maybe we do on a practice day, to decide on that club and take out the one that we're not using for that week. So it's just I suppose to be what we call on the ball and make sure that everything is as it should be. And yeah, like sometimes we get over the top and I'll be standing on the first tee and you're double checking that it is 14 clubs that we have in the bag, and you're triple checking that we're allowed to use lasers on the ladies tour to get the yardages, and just make sure that you have the slope turned off on the laser because you're not allowed to use it for elevation. But yeah, simple things like that. They're my checkpoints, I suppose, that you nearly do every morning, and it's habit now more than anything.
For those of us that watch a lot of men's and women's golf on TV, we see you talking to players. Are those conversations always about golf, or do you ever slide in something to, if you notice your player needs something, you just go, "Hey, where do you want to go to dinner tonight?" Or you try to
Yeah.
come up
Uh,
with a
uh, Look, yeah, there is plenty of golf talk in the moment of making decisions about the shot or whatever. But when you think of it, you're out there for pretty much 5 hours, and yet you're only hitting X amount of shots. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of spare time in between, and the I suppose the journey or the roller coaster of a round of golf. There can be good shots, bad shots, different emotions thrown in there. So like people will often say caddies are part-time psychologists, part-time best friend. There's a lot of different hats that you wear during that 5 hours on the golf course. And I suppose the real art in a way of caddying or being a really good caddy. I think a lot of caddies can do the basics of the mathematics and judging where the wind direction is coming from. And if you know your player, you know how far they hit each individual club. So that's all kind of science. And but really getting to know your player, and when you see maybe that they're getting on a little bit of a spiral or negative self-talk after maybe a bad start or something like that, that's the key component really to trying to support and help your player through the journey of a round of golf. And look, we experienced that on the Sunday. You're going out there in the final round with one of the very best in the world in Minji Lee, who only won the KPMG major a matter of a few weeks ago, and Gabby Ruffles then from Australia, who again is both LPGA players and world class players. So it was like a very much a step up for Cara to find herself in that position. It's a completely different environment. So it's completely understandable that there would be a lot of nerves there. And I suppose it's how best do you manage to manage those nerves? And on my side, how best can I try and navigate her into the round of golf? And like I said, there's always going to be ebbs and flows. So, and you learn a lot from those moments as well, Todd. You really do, so that's what shapes you as a caddy. 4 years caddying isn't that long, but you want to put yourself in those positions to try and learn the most from them.
Speaking with Harry Ewing here on this sporting planet. Harry, someone else who did well at the Evian alongside Kara was Lottie Woad. What have you made of her in the last couple of years, and what about her play makes her so good?
Yeah, it's massively impressive. Yeah, she's like what she's done even over the last few weeks. But if we go back previous to that, like she's been a name that we followed for a while in amateur golf in her collegiate career. It's been a trend that has been what I would say a steady upward curve. It seems to be. She's very balanced. She has a very good team already around her. I think a lot of things are in place already for the moment. Recently, where she decided to turn pro, and being home in Ireland there a few weeks ago, I had done 4 tournaments in a row in America, and then obviously saw that she was playing in the Irish Open, so I was caddying there that week for Cara as well. But for her to go and do what she did in Carton House that week and pretty much dominate from round one right till the end and go and win a professional tournament as an amateur. That was an amazing achievement. And I had a chat with her. She was on the flight the next morning out of Dublin to Evian. And it's kind of like what Scotty Scheffler said last week. Once you win a tournament and you maybe have a little celebration on the Saturday night, but someone ends up drawing a line in the sand where they say, what time we going to the airport, or what where are we going for dinner tonight? And that's the end of that week and that celebration, and the focus immediately switches to the next week and the next tournament. That's the kind of rat race or cycle that we're on in this world of professional golf. But I met her and her dad at like 4:30 a.m. on the Monday morning, heading for the first flight to Geneva for Evian, and she just won her first professional golf tournament as an amateur. But you could see the focus and in her that like it was very much, it's a new week, it's a new challenge. Absolutely, it's a great achievement, but I'll probably find a different time in a few weeks' time to actually celebrate that. And then she goes to Evian and did what she did at Evian, like that front nine on Sunday going out in 30 and popping her name right up
Impressive.
to the
Yeah.
top of that leaderboard was unbelievably impressive. But like, even in preparation for next week in the AIG, like she finished tied 10th there last year as an amateur, and that was her ticket to getting back this year.
Right.
Now she's there as a professional after winning a professional event. You know, the future is very, very bright for Lottie Woad. A good friend of mine now, an Irish guy, is taking over. He's going to be her full-time caddy. He's a huge amount of experience, this guy. He's been on the bag of Shane Lowry for kind of like 9 years up to 2018, just before he won his major in 2019. So it's all of those things and the kind of calmness and the sense of team and a really strong backroom team that she has around her that I think puts her in a very good place to enter the world of professional golf. And look, don't get me wrong, the world as being a professional is probably very different to being an amateur. So there's going to be some ups and downs there. There's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, but that's what shapes you. But like you'd have to say she's in a fantastic position in which to start that journey as a professional golfer.
Harry, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the Women's Open has been on a fast upward trajectory in the last few years. How has it changed in your opinion?
Yeah, it's amazing, really, when you think next week, like we're going to an iconic venue first and foremost in Royal Porthcawl, and over as long as I can remember, over these most recent years, I think the RNA and obviously with their association with AIG have really elevated this event to be something very special. We go to the most iconic golf courses. In my first couple of years of caddying, I wasn't fortunate enough to be on a bag to caddy in a women's open. That changed last year, and what a very special place to caddy my first one in the home of golf in St Andrews. That was an amazing week just to be there. And I've been to St Andrews many times, dating back as far as probably the year 2000. I've been there to see Jack Nicklaus finish his career. I've been there to see Tom Watson finish his career. But to actually walk down the middle of the fairways and caddy and have some input with a player, that's a different vibe altogether.
Hmm.
And like I said, you look at the venues, you look at the prize fund, in which the way they've elevated the
Right.
prize fund has tripled in the last 5 or 6 years. And that's amazing to give these women professionals the chance to compete for that much prize money. So there's so much around the event next week. Like I look forward to it in so many ways. The way they take care of everyone, players and caddies, they build a purpose-built clubhouse facility and
Hmm.
dining. There's childcare for players. There's massage therapists, there's ping pong tables for the caddies. You know, the catering is off the charts, next level, how well they look after us from like 5 o'clock in the morning, and you can still get food in the dining of the clubhouse up till 10 o'clock at night. So
Wow.
there's no stone left unturned with what they're doing. And I think, look, it's fantastic, and you can see, you know, the players really, really appreciate it. And we're starting to see high profile the ladies game is now. It's attracting big sponsors, and rightly so. We want to see the women start to play for more akin to what the men are playing for. And
Sure.
I think really a huge reason why I like and enjoy caddying on the ladies tour so much is a lot of us, and a lot of male golfers, a lot of women golfers, feel that the ladies' game is arguably more in tune or more aligned to how most amateur golfers play golf. The men's game has gone so far ahead with the distance that they hit the
Yeah.
ball, and it's kind of gone too far from most amateurs golfers' reach. I think if you're sitting down watching the TV and you see Lydia Ko in St Andrews last year, and she's hitting a 7 iron into one of the iconic par threes, and it's 150 or 160 yards, you're
You can
sitting
relate
on
to
the
that.
couch thinking, you know what, I could probably do that. And that kind of inspires you as well, I think, you know?
You cover all the important stuff at the Open coming up, and we talked about catering, ping pong, the whole thing. But who should we be looking out for this year's Women's Open? And will we see a home favorite possibly emerge victorious?
Yeah, well, look, interesting. I was kind of having a look at this for a reason of, yeah, trying to find an angle. You know, I know look, people love to have a little bit of an angle, and maybe they're going to have a little side bet with a pal or their golfing buddies, and trying to see, you know, there's one girl that plays on the LET, a lovely kid. She's only out here recently, Darcy Harry. She's a local girl from Royal Porthcawl. She won in Belgium a few weeks ago, and that booked her ticket into the AIG Women's Open. So that in itself is a great story. She's playing in her home course
Right.
in her second major. She played in Evian a few weeks ago, but that's a great story. So we'll have to keep an eye on how Darcy does. But the trends are, we'll call them trends. It's very unusual to get someone to win an AIG Women's Open at their first attempt, especially on these iconic links courses. Typically, it takes a bit of time to kind of play these championships and learn the nuances of links golf. Because I'm sure we're going to have a bit of wind down there, and there's
Right.
good bounces and bad bounces on links golf. So, when you look at Lydia Ko last year, it took her 12 times to play in the Women's Open before she won one. And that's one of the very best players in the world, and now Hall of Fame player. So it takes a bit of learning. And the previous year in 2023, Lydia Vu won, having only played in one previously. So that was a bit of an outlier. But typically you need someone that has played in it at least a few times. Georgia Hall, when she won in 2018, had played in five previous Opens. So I'm not giving you an answer here, but you're looking for an answer. Like, Lottie will be very interesting to see how Lottie gets on. She's on such a curve, and confidence in golf is a very dangerous thing, and she has it in bucket loads right now. So that will be a really interesting watch. Our own Leona Maguire from Ireland has come into form recently since the KPMG. She finished seventh in Evian. Leona's kind of picking back up a little bit of form, loves links golf, so I think she could be definitely one to keep an eye on. But let me give you two other names. Julia Lopez Ramirez, a Spanish girl, did unbelievably well in the US Open earlier in the summer. Absolutely bombs the ball. If anyone can get out and watch her a little bit next week, serious striker of the ball, hits it pretty much 300 yards off the tee.
Wow.
She finished 29th in the Open last year, so she had a good showing and already has that experience under her belt. And then someone else, Andrea Lee, an American, has played very well in the Open the last 2 years. She finished ninth in St Andrews last year and just inside the top 30 the previous year. So look, I could throw so many names at you, Todd. It's a difficult one predicting professional golf, but six of the last 10 winners had recorded at least one victory in the year prior to winning their Women's Open. So usually it's a kind of player that's has some form coming in, or has maybe previously won a tournament in the previous year or two. It's very hard rock out and do like Sofia Popov did a few years ago and suddenly win one having not won before.
Talking about the players, what do you think countries in Asia are getting right at the moment? Because they're producing such good talent right now.
Yeah, they are. And if I knew that, I could maybe go back to my coaching days and then bottle a bit of that information. But yeah, it's massively impressive. And you see it, like I caddy on the LPGA out in America primarily, and you can see how many Asians are out there playing and really coming to the fore at the top of the game. So I think, yeah, a lot of it is that they start out at a very young age. Um, we can have two opinions on that, whether we think it's a bit of a sheltered childhood or not, but like they come out ready to win as soon as they turn pro. A lot of the Asians don't actually even go and do collegiate golf. They actually turn pro at the age of 17 or 18 and are out at that such a young age. And you'll find what a lot of them tend to do is they might play for 10 years and then they'll actually retire very early, partly because they're nearly burnt out from playing 10
Right.
years on tour is probably the lifespan of doing this career. But yeah, it's a really interesting one. You look at even for next week, the countries with the most wins. Yes, America has 12 wins of this championship from nine different players, but right up there is Koreans. They have six wins as well. So like, we're looking for trends or whatever. The English, in fairness, have eight wins, and like I said, Georgia back in 2018, but they're probably crying out for another English winner. Would be amazing.
All right, Harry Ewing, we're gonna get you out of here on this. Best golf movie of all time, or you can give me your top 3.
It's funny. I saw Scotty Scheffler obviously after last week. He got back there and he rocked up with the claret jug to the premiere of the new Happy Gilmore, and I think it's
Yeah.
due out this week. It's going to be released this week, so I think I'm going to have to go with Happy Gilmore because, yeah, I remember watching that in my earlier years and thought, like, what a great movie, absolute classic. And I believe that they've a lot of the current kind of tour stars. I think our own Shane
A
Lowry
lot
might
of
feature,
cameos.
Rory, yeah, a lot of cameos. So yeah, I'd go with that. What about you, Todd? What's your one?
Harry, I thought for sure you were gonna say either Bagger Vance or Tin Cup because they're caddy related.
Yeah, maybe no, but I'm old school classic. That one left a mark on me all those years ago. And now that there's going to be a part two, I'm kind of excited to go and watch that. You know,
Harry Ewing, you're an absolute legend. Thanks for joining us on this sporting planet.
a pleasure. Thank you, Todd.